Good afternoon. Welcome, fellow Rotarians and guests. Good to have you today. What a great week this has been weather-wise and gets us all, I think, in a better mood. Unfortunately, we start today's meeting on a bit of a sad note. Our community lost a very special individual yesterday. For those of you who've known Isabel Yates, you know how endearing, engaging, and loving she is. What a wonderful human being. She was a centenarian, who worked tirelessly all 100 years of her life. She was a past member of our Rotary Club and truly lived a life of service above self. Arrangements are still pending. I ask that we have a moment of silence in her honor and memory. Well, I was asked today to fill in for Brett. Unfortunately, he's a little bit under the weather, but we wish him a quick recovery. But what a year he is providing us in Rotary with his great enthusiasm, his wonderful wit, and his servant leadership. Let's give a hand for Brett. And thank you, Laura, for all the wonderful programs as today's speaker that we have today. Just really looking forward to your talk, Dr. Couch. It's been nearly a decade since I had the privilege of serving as your president. And naturally, age is catching up on me some. But I've decided to take Clint Eastwood's advice: when time comes knocking on the door, don't let the old man in. I'm getting very forgetful at times, so I need to look up my notes. For me, my mind works like lightning. One brilliant flash, and it's gone. Let's get going. Starting to give our inspiration today, Phil Gray.
Afternoon. Let's start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In four-way test, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? All right, here we go. Sometimes these inspirations write themselves and are directly related to current events. Today, February the 27th, is one of those days. I got two for you today. Both of these major events occurred in history on February the 27th. On February the 27th in 1922, the Supreme Court of the United States unanimously, there's something we're not ever going to see again, unanimously holds that the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, guaranteeing women the right to vote, no applause, come on, ladies, is constitutional. The 19th Amendment stated that the rights of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on the account of sex. It was the product of more than 7 decades of meetings, petitions, and protests by women suffragettes and their supporters. How's that worked out for us? In the 2020 presidential election, 82.2 million women voted. 72.5 million men voted. Well done, ladies. And on February the 27th in 1951, the 22nd Amendment to the United States Constitution was ratified, limiting presidents to 2 terms in office. Not sure what's unclear about that. This amendment was largely a reaction to President Franklin Roosevelt's 4 consecutive terms, which broke the long-standing tradition set by George Washington of only serving 2. The amendment specifies that no person can be elected to office of the president more than twice. and a person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected. President may not be elected to the office more than once. That anomaly came into effect, does everybody remember, when President Kennedy was murdered. President Kennedy had served more than 2 years of his term. Vice President Lyndon Johnson finished President Kennedy's first term, was elected to a full term in 1964, and could have served a full second term. However, he chose not to run in 1968. All the current constitutional amendments were passed by getting 2/3 majority yes vote in both the House and the Senate, and then being ratified by 3/4 of states. Today, that number of states would be 38. Good luck with that. Today, we couldn't get an amendment to agree on the color of the sky, regardless of which party introduced it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for always sharing some great insights into history. And speaking of which, as we're nearing the end of the African American History Month, I want to share something that I think emulates what we are as Rotarians, was quoted by Martin Luther King. We need leaders not in love with money, but in love with serving, not in love with publicity, but in love with humankind. At this time, can we have Michael Morrell, please, tell us who our special guests are today, Michael?
I will do just that. Thank you, Jerry. We've got several visitors today. And when I mention your name, please stand up so we can see who you are. First, Danny Murphy is here. He's a guest of Laurel Martin. Jennifer Vissing is also here, guest of Andy Bryan. This also says Andy Bryan is a guest of Susie Passion. All right. David Bryan Blondell is a guest of his father, Reverend David Blondell. And Cole Mays is a guest of Marcus Cross. Let's give them all a big hand. And we have one visiting Rotarian from the Sunrise Rotary in Bloomington, Illinois. Here, I know it's the second time he's been here, Paul Leahy. Paul, hi, Paul. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks, Michael. And again, welcome to all these special guests and people are here. Hope you'll come more often. The lottery, Bruce Daly. Let's see, we've got somebody lucky today. Can we have maybe our speaker pull out one of the tickets? One of the cards. $828. For the Jack of Hearts. Here we are. And that number is, last three numbers, 191. 427-4191. There comes Bill Strauss. Will it be his lucky day? How you feeling it today, Bill? Oh, I saw Bill coming up. All right, Tony. Oh, not there. So we'll give you $1 back. All right. Last three numbers, 187. 187. Here you go, Bruce. That's Matthew. Ronnie. Jack of Hearts, Matthew. Oh, you get $1, Matthew. Thanks, Bruce. Thank you, Bruce. All right. Thank you all for playing. You may not have won, but just keep playing along. This money helps us do a lot of things at our club. All right. Celebrating birthdays this week. Roger Baird, Gene Foster, Kim Clark, Tom Lester, Jeff Thompson. I know he's here. Tom Hathaway and Mike Baker. Let's wish them all a wonderful birthday. All right, some quick announcements and reminders of what's coming up for our club. And thanks again to everybody. We're going to have Susan come to the podium in a minute. But first of all, I want to remind everybody, March 15th, St. Patrick's Day Parade. Join us to walk as a group. Lots of fun, similar to last year. Bring your families, friends, to walk behind our big rotary banner. We'll have items to give away. We need your help carrying the banners. You can become a Mick Vandermeer that day, or a O. Campbell. You just have to come and be a St. Patty's fan. This Friday, early morning mixer at Lexington Green, 8 to 9:30. We've been participating in this in a number of months now. It's a great networking event where you mingle and talk to different people. And I think they still giving free donuts out, or bagels and coffee. Bagels and coffee. And a door prize. Thanks, Jenny. So try to be there. Lexington Green is right at the store next to where you go in the main entrance of Joseph Beth Booksellers. Okay, now Susan, I'd like to have Susan come to the podium.
Good afternoon. As you've seen on the table, there are information there about our March social. You might not think that March is around the corner with all the cold and snow, but it is 2 days away, and our March social is 1 week away. So I've heard from many of you that you're interested in getting tickets to Witness for the Prosecution that is directed by our own Gary McCormick, but you haven't bought your tickets yet. So we need to make sure that we have enough tickets for everyone. I would love it if you could just scan that QR code and get your tickets early so that we know how many to have for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. As always, the driving force behind a lot of these things. I want to give a shout out to Gary McCormick. Have any of you gone to his program last year? You don't have to raise your hands. If you have, you'll remember, like I did with another couple, when we saw Murder on the Orient Express. It's in a great little theater. You're not in Rupp Arena. You can see these actors up front and close. They are darn good. Watch out, Hollywood. Anyway, I encourage you to really get together with some other Rotarians. Come see this. For us, March 6th doesn't work as we'll be traveling out of town next week, but we already have our tickets for the 21st with that same couple. We're going back for more. So I encourage you to think about going. Thank you, Gary, for inviting us all to be part of that. Okay, at this time, we're going to do a special presentation that we do occasionally throughout the year when our orange badge newer yearling members become blue badges. And before I go into that, we're going to have Julie Kwasniewski present a little slide presentation of what they did as a group. And every year, or every yearling group has to do a special program, something that's voluntary, doesn't cost the club anything. And Julie, who's the director of Bluegrass Farms Charities, came up with the idea of supporting them in their Christmas party, and the whole yearling group supported that. I'd like to add one thing to that. As we live in this wonderful thoroughbred community, and we see these yearlings out in the pastures this time of the year, which I encourage all of you to do. Take the time to go out there, and you'll see how excited those new ponies are. Well, these yearlings are much the same. They represent the hope for our club in the future and that new level of enthusiasm. Get to know your yearlings. At this point, Julie, if you'd like to come up to the podium.
Thank you, Jerry. On December the 11th, Bluegrass Farms Charities held its annual festival Christmas event. And with the 11 of 12 members in the yearling class, everyone had a project to do, whether it was prior to the event, the day of the event, or at the event. And so I just as the director, want to say thank you right off the bat. It was a huge event, and not having the support, it would have been, very difficult to handle, because we had 1,541 individuals registered. We gave out 1,566 gifts or gift cards or other items. Of that, consisted of 10 bikes, 2 Vizio TVs that were 65-inch that Matt, where are you? Raise your hand, Tab. He personally went and got. We gave out tons of candy, which Lucas and his wife sat and stuffed over 600 bags. We gave out air fryers and grills that John Thurston himself personally went and picked up at Sam's Club for me. We had Pam Goodwine and everyone, Jared and Rhodes Smith, everyone taking 5 car loads to the training center that morning. We had individuals that were there to help make the toy room a special place for the children. And then we had individuals like Jim, right? Jim, okay, Don, I'm sorry. Don was there and he saw how everything was running in the dining room. It was a big event, wasn't it, Don? It was huge. And I would just want to say, on behalf of Bluegrass Farms Charities, helping these individuals at this event not only gives them a great Christmas season and presents, but it also is a welcoming for them to know how hard they work and supporting the thoroughbred industry. So thank you all. I want to give you all a hand. So thank you. So it was a big event. Thank you.
Great job, Julie. And maybe this is something we need to participate in every year. Just throwing it out there. Anyway, it sounded great. I talked to a couple of you that participate with Julie, and what a wonderful thing to do for those people who work so hard on those farms. At this point, we're going to present the blue badges. And so what I'll do is I'm going to read the names of the yearlings. I'm going to ask you to just come up as I read your names, just keep coming up. And I'm going to ask 2 people that serve on the yearling committee, Chris Campbell and Susie Basham. And Laurel, I'm going to ask 3 people. Laurel is also on our committee. If you would come to the front here and help present the badges. So here we go. And some of these people could not make it today because of other conflicts or they were traveling out of town, but here are the names of those yearlings. Reagan Blevins, Matthew Goebel, Pamela Goodwine, Julie Kwasniewski, Graham Marks, Lucas McVoy, Tim Mueller, keep coming on up, Jared Paul, Abby Piper, Rhodes Smith, Matt Tabb, Don Tharp, and Michael Wallace. And Peggy's going to take a group picture here with everybody. Great. Thank you again, yearlings. Wonderful to have you with our club. Many of them will still be looking for committees to be part of. So you as committee chairs out there, you may want to pick on some of those people that you see today. Go say hi to them and see if they can help you on your committee. At this point, it's time for our speaker. Chris Peck will be introducing our speaker. Chris.
Good afternoon. Our speaker is Dr. Amon Couch. He's a first-generation graduate and longtime resident of Eastern Kentucky. I think that's why they had me introduce you my accent. I think that's part of it. He spent nearly 3 decades in public education as a teacher and an administrator, most recently as the principal and superintendent. After retiring from public education, he went to work for Partners of Rural Impact, where he currently serves as the Associate Vice President of National Place-Based Programming. How you get that on a badge? and co-interim vice president of PRI's National Place-Based Programming, providing leadership and support to a diverse group of grant programs in Kentucky, Texas, and Missouri, with all with the goal of increasing educational outcomes for rural students. The organization, a little bit about them, Partners for Rural Impact is a national nonprofit headquartered right in Berea, Kentucky, whose mission it is to ensure that all rural youth, age 0 through 24, are on a path to upward mobility. Using a cradle to career and place-based approach, they, as a national intermediary, operate on a local, state, and national levels to accelerate outcomes for 14 million children and youth in rural America. His presentation is called The Power of Place, Partner for Rural Impact's mission of improving outcomes for rural students. Please welcome Dr. Couch.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I think that's why we were linked up together, both that Eastern Kentucky background. Yes, my name is Amon Couch, and I hail from a place in northeastern Clay County called Bullskin. You won't find that on a map anywhere. You're not going to find that in any atlas. But I was telling some folks before when I first got here, this is so surreal to me to stand in front of such an accomplished group of leaders and servants here in Lexington to talk about something that means so much to me. I was raised by my grandparents, but know my real father. My grandfather, who I called Dad, his name was Amon Couch also, was a World War II vet and fought with General Patton's army in the Third Army in World War II against the Nazis. And Dad, early on in my life, because I wasn't good at anything, y'all, like athletics or any of that nonsense. I wasn't good at anything but school. And so I made a career of it. I made a career of helping kids. And so he told me early on, you're going to make your living with your mind and not your back like I did. And I lost my dad my first year of teaching back in 1993. So the fact that Amon Couch is standing behind a podium at the Rotary Club of Lexington is a surreal experience. Like Chris said, I started out as a high school English and history teacher, and at the age of 29 years old became a principal, and then went on to be a superintendent of 2 different school districts in rural Eastern Kentucky. And that's where I first met Dreama Gentry, who is our president and CEO at PRI. I was under-resourced, and that's not going to be a surprise to anybody in this room who knows anything about school business. I didn't have enough money to do all the things I needed to do, and I didn't have the partnerships or the resources to do what I needed to do, and Dreama brought support. And so I was just sort of counting down the months and years until I could call that, kind of close the book on that chapter and go to work for her. And so now in my current role, we have a team at PRI of about 400 folks, warriors for kids, and they're all over the country, all over the country. My primary work exists in Appalachia because that's where we're the deepest. That's where Dreama started her work almost 30 years ago. And very blessed to have Danny Murphy, who's the chair of our board at PRI here in the room. And I know, please share only good things, Danny, with Dreama after the talk is over. But I knew I wanted to be a part of this. I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. And so when I came to work for PRI, I became very, very enthralled with this notion, this audacious notion that all kids, urban, suburban, and rural, their life's outcomes should not be determined by things that are out of their control. It should not be determined by their zip code, because I firmly believe that all kids are gifted. And it is our responsibility as the adults in their lives to put them in situations where they can grow and develop into the person that God has called them to be. I feel a little bit like my pastor. He flashed a picture of a turtle up on a fence post. It's my favorite graphics. I should have included it in the PowerPoint, but I did not. Because if you see a turtle on the fence post, you understand something very clearly, that turtle did not get there on his own. And I'm standing in front of you today understanding there's a whole lot of people. And I'm sure if I were to take this microphone and walk around this room and ask who was that person or those people in your life who were there for you and who corrected you and encouraged you and loved you and helped take care of you and spur you on to greater things, all of us, we could spend the rest of this week having that conversation. And that's what my people do. And explaining what PRI does in 20 minutes is an impossible task. But I want you to know I'm not going anywhere. I'll be around after if you want to ask any questions, or we can talk later. So the first slide I'm going to show you, I want to give you all that first. Last summer, this is one example of one of the kind of things that we do. We brought 50 high school kids on the campus of Lincoln Memorial University down in Harrogate, Tennessee. We had a meeting with them. We connected immediately, and we decided to have a leadership experience for kids on the campus of a college, kids who'd never been on the campus of a college anywhere. We wanted them to see themselves. We wanted to see themselves in that environment and imagine that they could be successful, maybe for the first time in their life, anyone in their family had ever gone to school. At the end of that week, they left some notes. And I've got a note up here from a little girl down in Whitley County. Let's turn this PowerPoint on here. How do we advance the slides? Oh, there we go. There we go. I got it. Take a look at that. Thanks for giving me hope. Thanks for giving me hope. Let me tell you something. That hangs in my office at home. And anytime I get a little bit distracted or a little bit down or a little bit discouraged, I know that, and you are too. We're in the business of providing hope to those people around us. Whatever conversation, that next right thing, that next right interchange or exchange that you have with someone, to know that that child left that and she is dreaming now bigger than she's ever dreamed before. There was a young man in the room who was from Letcher County, actually Jenkins Independent. And he was toying with the idea of going to the Craft Academy. And he came to me and he said, Dr. Couch, I'm not really sure I'm worthy to go to a place like that. I don't know if a boy from Jenkins, Kentucky needs to be on the campus at this Craft Academy. I don't think I'm worthy of it. I said, oh, yes, you are. Oh, yeah, you're actually, you have much more capacity than you realize that you have. At the end of that week, that young man, he signed on to go to the Craft Academy. And guess what? He's there and he's thriving at high levels. So that gives me great, great hope. So that's the work that we do. So let me give you, this is our official mission as an organization. Chris read this already, so you're kind of familiar with it a little bit, but there are 14.2 million kids in America who live in a rural setting. Kids everywhere, endemic to the environment, the ecosystem they grow up, that place, that ecosystem they live in has assets and it has challenges. My work is with rural kids, but I also understand that if we're going to get to that place where all kids, not just the 14.2 million rural kids, are going to achieve at the highest levels possible, we cannot do that in isolation. So we very actively pursue partnerships with organizations in urban areas and in suburban areas, because every child matters. Every child has gifts that they need. For all of us, as I get older, I begin to become more and more keenly aware of the need for our younger generation to be able to carry the water. Now, this is a little anecdote that I want to share that wasn't anywhere scripted, but I found out a few months ago I'm going to be a grandpa for the first time in May. It's more real to me now than it's ever been before. That we got to build systems and processes and policies and ideas where every child can succeed, because James Amon is on the way and he'll be here in May. And then I found out last week that my youngest daughter is in fact pregnant also. So I got two coming at the same time. Pray for me, thoughts and prayers, please. Okay. Send them my way. So PRI, yes, was born. We used to be our former reality, our former how we were known was Partners for Education as a part of Berea College. But a few years ago, we broke away and became our own freestanding nonprofit, national nonprofit, and it has just exploded with goodness. We have staff all over the country. Like I said, most of us, there are 250 jobs in Eastern Kentucky that are directly connected to the work of PRI. And so we are continually continue looking for ways to be able to partner with folks inside of local communities to build the infrastructure and to build the capacity within those unique small rural communities. That's the beauty of what we do. And yes, we are committed to the success of all kids. When you start thinking about the idea of all means all, that means because as a principal and superintendent, I did not have the luxury of picking and choosing which kids I was going to love and to serve. They were all mine. Every one of them were mine. And I try to carry that same mindset over into my current work to be able to say that because I've never met a family member yet of a child that did not want their child to grow up having more than they did. I never have. Their parents and families, they're easy targets sometimes because they're like, if we just had better parents, if we just had better school systems, if we just had, there's always going to be room to have those kinds of excuses. But as I told a principal one time that I was working with years ago before I came to PRI, he said, I asked him, well, so what do you attribute your school's low achievement to? And he said, we don't have a lot of doctors and lawyers kids here. Okay. Well, newsflash, sir. I said, those families are sending you the best kids they have. They're not keeping the good ones at home and sending you the leftovers. They're sending you the best ones they have. And I can show you example after example after example across Kentucky and Texas and Missouri, where schools and communities that might be high poverty are achieving at the highest levels possible. I was in Mexico, Missouri. You may not have known there's a town in Missouri called Mexico, but there is. And it's a beautiful little place. We have a team of people on the ground in Mexico. And one of the most amazing things about that little town is their YMCA. They have a YMCA that would absolutely blow your mind. It doesn't belong where it is. And I was meeting with the executive director this week, and we were dreaming a little bit about what's possible there in Mexico and how that PRI can support her, because that is an asset that currently exists within that community. So one of our cardinal rules is we find the assets in that community and we work with them. And she said this to me completely impromptu, and I had to capture it. She said, honestly, this is what you do. It's what PRI does. She says, the work of PRI is to help us do what we do, but better and more. They're feeding about 75 to 80 kids every single day after school who come over from the school over to the YMCA. There are kids upstairs in the esports lounge. That's a fancy word for a little room where some boys play video games, okay? But that's the esports lounge. And I got to hang out with those kids a little bit the other day, and that's my happy place. It's to be inside of a place where there's kids. And so that's, again, another way to describe a little bit about what we do. We go into a community, we establish relationships, we build on assets, we help that community identify resources, we help leverage policy and decision makers and influencers to help change and swing the fulcrum of policy to be kinder to rural places. So this is what we call our theory of action. And so if you were interested, if you really wanted to sort of geek out on these things, I was an English teacher. I'm a words guy. I'm not really a numbers guy. But the idea of our theory of action is that we want to be a part of building a movement across the country where we partner with really any organization inside of any community who wants to raise the bar for student outcomes, not just in rural places, but anywhere else, anywhere where there's a child. We want to be able to activate. We do not approach our work from a deficit frame. We report it from an asset frame. Because too often we think about the glass as being half empty. We come in with the glasses half full. There are things inside of our communities that are already working. There's no reason reinventing the wheel. The next piece of that is to strengthen the capacity of the work, strengthen the capacity of each local ecosystem to be stronger and more sustainable over time. To identify exemplars. So we currently have 3. We have one in Appalachia, we have one in Texas, and we have one in Missouri. We have one in Missouri. to be able to show other communities around the country that no matter what your community looks like, we have an exemplar of how it's working at the highest levels possible. And then finally, be able to build within the DNA this work that we're trying to do. Now, our goal right now, we're serving about 150,000 kids, direct services to kids, partnering with local school leaders. I think that's why they hired me, because I was a superintendent and I can speak their language. Okay. Superintendent whisperer a little bit. But we partner with the folks that are there because they know their community. I don't. And so we want to be able to help them meet them where they are. But again, we want to go in the next 5 years to serving 1 million rural kids. And then at the end of a certain period of time, we want to be able to have a hand in helping all 14.2 kids in rural places. For time's sake, I'm going to skip over just a little bit more. And I actually want to leave some times for questions because it's important to do that. This picture was taken this week. As you've seen from the news, if you have any connections to folks in Eastern Kentucky, this new round of flooding was disastrous. The floods that came in 2022 seemed to hit a few counties really, really hard. Letcher, Knott, Perry, but this one was more widespread. The picture that you see on the screen right now is of one of my project directors, who's a native, Leslie County. And this particular picture was taken in an area of Leslie County called Confluence, because it's the confluence of all these tributaries streaming in. That community is completely, as of right now, that entire community is cut off by water. They have power, but they cannot leave their homes to come out and get basic necessities like food and water. So this is Robert on a boat delivering supplies to families in this place is shut off by water. So yeah, we engage in direct services like helping kids complete their FAFSA. We'll take kids on a college day. We'll have leadership camps like the one I was talking about earlier. We'll train teachers in quality instructional practices. We'll build a new partnership with another organization in, say, Louisville, an urban setting. But at the end of the day, this is the best summary of what we do. We roll up our sleeves, we put on our muck boots, and we pack that little John boat full of stuff, and we go out to where people are and we help them. That's what PRI does, and that's why I want to be a part of it. So does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask? Because I always like to leave time for a few little Q&As. That's a beautiful thing. I have become a professional matchmaker. Okay. So if you're sitting here right now and you have any connections within yourself or in your organization that you'd like to be partner of ours, and you want to join with us and learn more about the work, here's the thing. We cannot make or meet that audacious goal in and of ourselves. It requires partnership building. So there's any interest in talking more. I do a lot of first dates where we'll go a little deeper, and it's really clear after a few minutes, like, okay, this isn't going to work. Either one side or the other. But you know what? Every once in a while, I'll have a first date with a partner that it's like just instant synergy. That's what happened with LMU in that leadership camp. And so I always picture our work kind of imagine this table over here where Laurel and Danny are sitting. There's 2 empty chairs. I always picture our work is there's always an empty chair, PRI's table. There's always another chair. All right. So that's a great question. Thank you for that. Laurel.
Special place, the qualities, the dynamics.
Yeah. So in Appalachia, so most of my work is east of 75. Okay, east of I-75. I go from Pike County in the west to Clinton County, or to the east to Clinton County in the west. So that kind of flaws my 75 metaphor a little bit. But Menifee County in the north to Whitley County in the south. So you can kind of picture in your map how that works. Mountain people are resilient people. It's sad sometimes because we have to be so resilient. That's a thing. My youngest daughter teaches middle school language arts at a private Christian school in Clay County. She had a young man that 3 years ago lost his family lived in a single wide trailer on the riverbank. Floods washed it away. Guess what they did? They got him another used trailer because guess what? That's all the property they had. And they put that single wide right back where the other one was. And guess what happened last week? It got washed away. 3 years, 2 homes gone. But to tell you about just Appalachian people, we'll help each other. And nobody cares about red or blue or nothing else. They want to be able to help each other. And so that's who we are. We're proud. We're resilient. We love place. You're all invited to come to my home place on Bullskin anytime you want. I don't get back home a lot, but that place, my wife used to say that as I was driving there with her when we were first married, I began to change. I said, what do you mean I began to change the closer we get to that place? He said, you became more fulfilled the closer we got geographically to that place where you grew up. That's the power of place. And it doesn't matter whether it's Bullskin in Clay County or Mexico, Missouri, or a little town of Pineland or Diboll, Texas, where, because of PRI's work, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library is launching there next week. And so the kids, and all I was looking for was a partner. And I found the librarian in Diboll, Texas that wanted this too. And I was like, I can help you because I happen to sit on the statewide advisory board for Kentucky's Dolly Parton Imagination Library. So great question, Laura. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's a great question. So primarily our funding is public dollars, grants like Promise Neighborhood and AmeriCorps and full service community schools. But we also have a lot of private philanthropic dollars as well. Because number one, those monies they don't come with as many strings. Okay. They're just people want to give and want to be a part of something. So we're very committed to diversifying our funding streams so that we don't have to always be as dependent upon public dollars. But that's what DREAMA and my bosses, they spend all their time doing is talking to folks who have a similar heart for kids. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, again, thank you, Dr. Couch. A key part, as I was listening to him speak today, of Rotary's focus, as most of you, as we become Rotarians, realize, are youth-oriented services. Clearly, Dr. Couch, you emulate Rotary spirit in that regard. In your mission, your projects, your support of youth. Thank you, sir, for all that you do, and thank you for being here to share your wonderful story with us again. We have a little gift for you. This is a print from one of our own Rotarians, Bill Strauss, as a little memento for taking the time to be here.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.